Okay, hello everybody. I am going to be going over the Math GED practice test packet that I have given you all. Now, remember that the GED math test has 46 questions and you're given 115 minutes to complete everything. Remember, there are two parts. Part one is no calc. It's around five or six questions. Part two is the rest of it, calc aloud. That's around like 40 questions, which is the rest of it. So before I get started, I want to go ahead and set the timer so that we can see how we need to pace ourselves. So I have a stopwatch here, and I'm gonna go ahead and start it. And we'll come back to it when we're done with the exam. Okay. Let's take a look at the first question. Which point on the number line has the greatest absolute value? So here's some key definition here. What is an absolute value? All that an absolute value is that it represents a distance from zero. That's quite literally all an absolute value is. So it doesn't matter if you are in the positive numbers or the negative numbers. Nonetheless, whichever distance is greater is what we're looking for. Which point on the number line has the greatest absolute value, aka the farthest distance from zero? So here's zero, right? Well, just from looking at this, which point is far away? Farthest away. Well, clearly it's not H. H is right at zero. And if we're comparing F, G, and J, G is clearly very close to zero, so it's not that. Now let's take a look at where J is from here. It is 1, 2, about 3 units away, and F is 1, 2, 3, 4 units away. So the answer is F. It is the farthest away from zero, aka it has the greatest absolute value. Okay. A list of numbers is shown from least to greatest. That's this right here. Select the correct number, then drag and drop in the box. So this setup looks a little bit confusing because we have A, B, C, and D, but on the computer, when you're taking this test on the computer, it'll be more straightforward. So over here, we're given a list of numbers that are written from least to greatest. A fifth is smaller than a third is smaller than a half is smaller than whatever E is. We're going to have to choose it from here. And whatever E is, it has to be smaller than 4/5. So we need to find a fraction out of these that is bigger than a half, but smaller than 4/5. So we don't even need to worry about these. We just need to find out what E is and put it in our selected choice. Okay. Well, right off the bat, I can see 5/4 here, and 5/4 is an improper fraction and it's bigger than 1. So I automatically know that's not going to be an answer because there's no way 5/4 is smaller than 4/5. Okay, let's take a look at 2/5. Well, another thing I realized is that, again, this fraction has to be bigger than a half. And 2/5 is less than half because half of 5 is actually 2.5. So it's not going to be this. Now, 1/6. Well, 1/6 is actually much, much smaller than a fifth. And if you don't believe me, here's how you would compare the two by their cross products. The cross product here is 6 and the cross product here is 5, meaning that a fifth is bigger than a sixth. So 1/6 would be around here, not even close. Okay. Let's keep going. Well, I know for a fact 5/6 is bigger than a half because half of 6 is 3, but let's compare it to 4/5, which is bigger. 25, 24. Okay, so we see 5/6 is bigger, but again, we need a fraction that is smaller than 4/5. So it's not that. So by process of elimination here, 3/4 is our answer because 3/4 is bigger than a half and it is smaller than 4/5. Well, let's just check our work just to make sure we have time. 15, 16. Yeah, 3/4 is smaller. Okay. And again, if I'm going too fast, you're more than welcome to pause and really just digest what the question is asking. Again, this video is for your own pace. Okay, number 3, simplify. So I know a lot of us kind of struggled with stuff like this, but again, just like how we read like sentences, we read from left to right. Well, it's the same thing with mathematical expressions like this. So we can tackle stuff one at a time from left to right. So -3 to the power 2. What is that little 2 right there? It represents an exponent. And an exponent is essentially telling us repeated multiplication. So this is saying we're multiplying the whole quantity, -3 times -3. That's why there's parentheses around the negative. It's quite literally telling us to multiply -3 times itself. Okay, cool. Minus the square root of 9. So again, a square root is essentially what two numbers, now, hold on, what number times itself equals 9? And in this case, it's 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now, all we need to do is multiply -3 times -3. Now, a negative times a negative is always a positive, so we're going to get a positive 9. 9 minus 3, this part didn't go away, which is 6. So the answer is D. Okay, which of the following is equivalent to the expression 100 times 27? Well, this is equal to 2,700 or 2,700. Now, which one of those does this match? Well, if I take a look here, this is essentially saying 100 times 140. Well, that clearly doesn't match this, so it's not A. This is saying the exact same thing as this. That's also not true. This is 100 times 3 times 9 is 27, which does match our expression, so it's C. The reason this is not the answer is because this is essentially 50 times 63. Excuse me, not 63, 27. And that's clearly not the same thing as 100 times 27. So the answer is C. Number 5, simplify 2 to the power 12 times 2 to the power 2, or 2 squared. So there's a rule that if I have some number x to the power a, where a is another number, times that same x to the power of a different number, or it could be the same number, you are allowed to combine the bases into 1. So I can write both of those bases as just 1. Now again, they have to have the same base. If they do not have the same base, aka this number, they're not the same number, then this rule doesn't work. So it's the same thing as x to the power a plus b. And there's a lot of practice on this online too. So you're allowed to add the exponents together. So over here, using this rule, since both of the bases are 2, I can write it as 1 to the power of the sum of their exponents, 12 plus 2. That's the same thing as 2 to the power 12 plus 2 is 14. So it's B. A lot of people mistake it to be C, but C would be a different rule. C would be something like this. A power to a power. This is equal to x to the power AB. See how different these two are? So if it was 2 to the power 12 to the power 2, these two are very different from each other. Then that's 2 to the power 24. But that's not what this question is asking. It's asking for this. So these two are not the same. So for this particular question, it's saying it's asking for multiplication. It is B. Okay. Refer to the following equation. C equals 3x plus 7. What is the value of C when x is half? Okay, so again, beyond this question, number 5, you are free to use a calculator. And I highly recommend that you use your calculator for every question you possibly can, as it'll help you with timing, because right now we are 10 minutes in. So, what is the value of C? That quite literally means I am looking for whatever number C is. And whatever C is one of my answer choices. So I have C equals 3. Well, here we're referred to as 3x. But we can't find what C is until we know what x is. But we do. Tells us that x is equal to 1/2. So this quite literally means that 3x plus 7 is the same thing as if I replaced x with 1/2, because they equal each other. 3 times 1/2 plus 7. So if you plug this in your calculator, you're going to get, this is 1.5 plus 7. Whether you use decimals or not, it does not matter. Or if you want to work with fractions, you can do that as well. But for the test, it's all about strategy. And I highly recommend you use strategies for this. This is 8.5. But as you can see from our answers, there's no 8.5 anywhere. Well, since this answer is a decimal, it's not a whole number, that means it can't be A or C, because those are whole numbers. So we're left with 17/2 and 21/2. If you plug these in your calculator, 17 divided by 2, this is equal to 8.5, which is our answer. So C is 8.5. Well, let's check to make sure what D is. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. That is not what we got. Our answer is 8.5. Therefore, it's B. Okay. Number 7. So we're given this graph showing the relationship of students' height and shoe size. So let's take a look at this graph. We're given our height in inches. This is essentially saying as our height goes up, there's some relationship going on here. And as the shoe size goes up, there's some relationship going on there. Now, if we take a look at the graph, it's kind of all over the place. But let's see what the question's asking. The given scatter plot shows a group of students' height and shoe sizes. As the student's height increases, that means we're looking here. As the height is going up, their shoe sizes either A, generally increase, generally decrease, or show no relationship to their heights. So general increase quite literally means we're seeing a gradual increase. But over here, we're not really seeing that. It's kind of all over the place. And with generally decreasing, as our x increases, our y decreases. We're not seeing any of those here. It's kind of all over the place. So the answer is there's no relationship to their heights because there's no clear indication what the relationship is. In fact, there's probably no relationship at all, which is the answer. For a lot of these questions, kind of go with your gut. Kind of think about what is the logic behind this question. Okay. Number 8, what is the length of this missing side? So The missing side is this question mark here, which is kind of blurry. So for this particular question, you need to know something called the Pythagorean theorem. You learned this in geometry. Well, typically students learn this in geometry. But the Pythagorean theorem is this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or otherwise known as the leg of a triangle squared plus the other leg of the triangle squared equals something called the hypotenuse squared. It's kind of a fancy word. So what is a hypotenuse? The hypotenuse, all it is it's the longest side of the triangle. I'm lazy, I'm gonna write triangle. So the hypotenuse, the longest side is this length right here. And oftentimes well, actually all the time, the hypotenuse is always opposite of this little square right here. Now this little square indicates that this is a right angle. And right angles are always 90 degrees, indicating this is a right triangle. Now, another thing with Pythagorean theorem is that it only works with right triangles. If you don't have a right triangle, you can't use it. So we're looking for our hypotenuse, which is our C here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug all these numbers into my known equation. 3 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. I'm going to call this question mark C. So all we need to do is just solve for C. 9 plus 25, because 3 squared is 9 and 5 squared is 25, equals C squared. 9 plus 25 is 34, equals C squared. Now, a lot of students stop here and pick D, but that's not the answer, because our goal is to find C squared, our goal is to find C. We currently have C squared. We're not looking for C squared. So in order to get C by itself, we need to do what is considered the opposite of squaring something. And the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root of it. So I need to take the square root of both sides because it's an equation. And the square root of 34 is not a very nice number, so I'm just going to leave it as the square root of 34, which is actually our answer. So yeah, in order to answer a question like this, you need to know Pythagorean theorem and how to use it. Okay. Multiply 3.0 times 10 to the power 12 times 2.0 times 10 to the power 8. Okay, well, first of all, the 3.0 and the 2.0 doesn't really make a difference. So we can essentially write this as 3 times 10 to the power 12 times, now I understand there's parentheses here, but this empty space here in between that also indicates multiplication, a product. So times 2 times 10 to the power 8. Now, another thing we like about multiplication is that it is a commutative operation. So what does that mean? What I mean by a commutative operation is that if I were to multiply two numbers, like for example, 3 times 4, which is 12, it is the exact same thing as if I were to switch the numbers around and do 4 times 3. So A times B is the same as B times A. That's what the commutative property is. The order doesn't matter. So in this case, I can rearrange this. Let me write this out so that I have 3 times 2, oh my goodness, 3 times 2 times 10 to the power 12 times 10 to the power 8, because look at that, I can multiply these. 3 times 2 is 6 times, so right off the bat, that eliminates A and D, because we're not adding 3 and 2, we're multiplying. Now, we're left between 96, 10 to the power 96, or 10 to the power 20. But remember this one up here. Clearly, it's asking us to multiply these two numbers, so we're using this rule. We have to add the exponents. So 10 to the power 12 times 10 to the power 8 is 10 to the power of 12 plus 8, which is 10 to the power 20, which is B. And a lot of people mistake this. Let me do this very quickly. A lot of people think this is equal to, let's see, 30 to the power 12. This is not correct. You cannot just multiply these two numbers together and ignore the exponent. That exponent has to be dealt with first. So you have to do 10 to the power 12, which is a really huge number, then multiply it by 3. You can't just multiply 3 times 10. Okay. All right, number 10. Miguel has 12 hours off from work in which he plans to relax. He decides he will spend the time watching movies, which are 1.5 hours each, and playing computer games, which take 45 minutes each. Which inequality represents the situation in terms of M, the number of movies, and G, the number of computer games? Okay, so we're given a lot of information here. Miguel has 12 hours off of work in which he plans to relax. There's a 12 in our answer here. And he decides to spend his time watching movies, which are 1.5 hours each. So that each indicates we're taking 1.5 and multiplying it by the number of movies, M. So we have 1.5 M. M can be any number. It can be 2 movies. It can be a million movies. Whatever M is, that's the variable that is the variable that has been assigned. So 1.5 M. Okay. That means let's go ahead and eliminate some answer choices. Well, A and B don't make sense because we see 1.5 times G, but G represents the computer games, which take 45 minutes each. And the reason it says 0.75 is because 45 minutes out of 60 represents the decimal 7.5. So computer games takes 45 minutes each, which means 0.75 times G. So that eliminates A and B because the variables are mixed up. The variables don't match what the question is asking. So what do we do now? We're mixed up between two answer choices. We have the sum of these is greater than 12, and we also have the sum is less than 12. This is where you kind of have to think about Miguel has 12 hours off from work, which means that he can only spend 12 hours or less on his break, right? Miguel can't spend 13 hours or 14 hours to relax, right? Because it actually says he has 12 hours, meaning he can't go above that. That quite literally means that 12 is the greatest possible number it could be. He can't surpass 12. That's why it's the biggest, indicating that D is the answer. Identify the parts of the rectangle. So we're given a list of numbers, and we're asked to find the following: the area and the perimeter. So be careful here because the area is indicated as B and the perimeter is A. I think that's a little bit confusing, but whatever, just pay attention to that. So we want to find the area of a rectangle, of this rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is always length times width. In this case, our area equals the length is 18 or 21, it doesn't matter, times the other dimension, which is 21. And 18 times 21 is 378. So when you're on the computer, you're going to take that number and you're going to drag it. And you're going to drag it to the B, to where it says B. It's as simple as that. Okay, perimeter. Perimeter is the total distance around the object. So For every rectangle, the opposite side of this 21 is also 21, and the opposite side of this 18 is also 18. So we need to add everything around this. That's the perimeter. So 21 plus 21 plus 18 plus 18. And that is going to be, do it in your calculator, 78. And that's it. Okay. The total cost of a snow cone with toppings can be represented by the equation C equals 1.75 plus 0.1 times T, where C is the total cost of the snow cone in dollars, and T is the number of toppings. How many toppings did the customer order if the total cost of the order was $2.05? So whenever it's saying something like how many or how whatever, that's what we're solving for. And since it's asking how many toppings did a customer order, and it already told us what toppings, what variable represents toppings, it's T. We're solving for T. So how do we do this problem? How many toppings did a customer order if the total cost of the order was $2.05? Well, it tells us what variable the total cost of the snow cone is, and it's C. So I quite literally take this equation and I plug in C for $2.05. Now we're solving for T, meaning we need to get T by itself. And how you do that is you work from the outside to the inside. So what's in the way right now is this $1.75. So I'll subtract it from both sides. Do this in your calculator. Try not to waste too much time trying to do the math in your head or on paper. Your calculator is your best friend here. So you're gonna get 0.3 equals 0.1 t. Now the last step is because 0.1 times t, you have to divide both sides by 0.1, and you get t equals 3. 3 toppings was ordered by the customer. So answer is C. Okay. Line K has a slope of 5 and passes through the point -2, 1. What is the equation of line K? Okay, so for every line, for all equations of lines, it's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So it gives us the slope. So we already know it's y equals 5x plus b. We don't know what b is. We need to figure that out. But that automatically eliminates c because that slope is 1. Now, how do I find b? Well, it gives us information here. It tells us that on this line is the point -2, 1. And remember, all points are read as x, y. But we already know what that is here. So just plug in y for 1 and x for -2. So 1 equals 5 times -2 is -10 plus b. Solve for b, we add 10 to both sides. B equals 11. So the equation of my line is y equals 5x plus 11, which is A. A teacher is making ribbons for his students to wear during an assembly. He plans to use 8 inches of ribbon for each of his students. The ribbon is sold in spools of 4 yards each. How many spools of ribbon must the teacher purchase? Note, 1 yard is 36 inches. This is very helpful for us. So first of all, let's look at the question again. The teacher is making assemblies for blah, 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 assembly. I don't care about that sentence. It doesn't tell me anything I need to do math related. So we're keeping it simple for ourselves. He plans to use 8 inches of ribbon for each of his 94 students. That quite literally means one student gets 8 inches, the second student gets 8 inches, keep going until 94. So that's repeated addition. And repeated addition is always multiplication. That means we need to do 94 times 8. Do it in your calculator. That's a total of 752 inches that this teacher needs to use. So we have that. What do we do with this information now? Well, the ribbon is sold in spools of 4 yards each. How many spools of ribbon must the teacher purchase? Okay, so we have 4 yards each. So one spool is 4 yards. So 36 inches per yard, and I have 4 yards. So I multiply 36 by 4. That's a total of 144 inches per spool, because that's 4 yards. Okay, so I need to figure out how many times does 144 go into 752. So I'm doing, oh my back, I'm doing 752 divided by 144 because I'm taking the total and I'm splitting it. And let me do that in my calculator very quickly. Again, always use your calculator when you can. That is 5.22 repeating. So that eliminates obviously C and D. So how do we know which one we need to pick? Well, if you see right here, we get 5.222 whatever, right? That's much bigger than 5. Now, obviously, if he only buys 5 spools, well, he has that 0.2 remaining. He's not going to have enough for his students. So he needs to buy actually 6 spools in order to accommodate for all of his students. So he needs to go up 6 spools because you can't buy a decimal of a spool. Because recall, this is a real life situation. Use your logic of real life situations to figure out what is it I need to do here. Okay. Number 15. Use the given graphs to complete the following question. Okay, so we have a cubic function. You don't need to know it's a cubic, it's just some function. Where x is greater than negative, where x is greater than -1, the function is either decreasing, constant, or increasing. Okay, so decreasing, let's take a look. When x is greater than -1, what does that mean? Well, on a graph, we're given 2 axes. This axis is the x-axis. This one is the y-axis. It actually says it up there. Now, when it's saying x is greater than -1, it's indicating we're looking at these values here. So I'm going to locate where x is -1. It's right there. And it's saying where x is greater than -1. That quite literally means all my x values that are bigger than -1. And clearly, these values are bigger. So I'm looking at this side of the graph. I can't draw. I'm looking at this side of the graph and beyond. As in, you can see, the graph from here is going up, meaning it is increasing. Good. Now it's saying where x is less than -1, the function is what? Well, that means these values, right? These values are less than -1. So I'm looking beyond this. And as you can see, it's going down over here. So the answer to that is decreasing. Take a look at, as my x values get smaller, this is also going toward the negatives. So it's decreasing. It's essentially saying as my x values are affected, what's happening to my y values? And clearly when it goes this way, my y's are increasing. Okay. At a certain venue, benches can hold 12 people each. A wedding with 98 guests will be held at the venue. How many benches are needed? Okay, so we're essentially taking 98 and we need to split it amongst 12 people because we're looking for how many benches we need. So in your calculator, type in 98 divided by 12. That's 8.166 repeating, right? So let's use our logic here. We need a little bit more than 8 benches. So if you say the answer is 8, that's incorrect because we actually need more than that, because if we just have 8, well, what about the rest of the people? What about the rest of the people that need a seat? So we need to round it up to 9. We need 9 benches for 98 guests. I can't spell benches. Again, with these types of situations, you need to use your common sense. You need to round up clearly. Okay. Multiply 5x plus 1 quantity times 2x minus 1. So anytime you have something like this, you do something called FOIL. Now, you don't have to remember this, but it's a neat way to say this. You take the first term. Let me write down FOIL, like tin foil. Actually, let me write it like this. It'll be easier. I can't spell. FOIL. F is for first, meaning I'm taking these two first terms and I'm multiplying it together. So 5x times 2x, that is 10x squared. Because remember this rule, x times x, this is x to the power 1, which is x to the power 1 plus 1, which is x to the power 2. Okay? Now, O stands for outer, like outer space. I don't know if it's 1T or 2T's, but these are the outer ones. So 5x times negative 1, that is minus 5x, negative 5x. In stands for inner, and these two are kind of like inners here. They're inside the whole thing. 1 times 2x is just positive 2x, and L is for last, which these two are the last in their parentheses. 1 times negative 1 is minus 1. And from here, we need to do something called combining like terms, which means I need to add or subtract numbers that have the same variable. And here, negative 5x and 2x have the same variable, meaning I can combine them. So I have 10x squared. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. If you don't know how to do that, just do it in your calculator. Negative 5 plus 2. The variable is going to be the same, x minus 1. This is your final answer. Let's see which one this matches, and it's D. Which of the following is the graph of y equals mx minus 1? So recall that this right here is our slope. It's our rate of change. And the number at the end is our y-intercept. Now, remember, a y-intercept is on the y-axis. It's what intersects that point. So that means that our line, the equation of our line, needs to pass the point negative 1. Here, if we zoom in, we can see that it's on negative 1. So A is a possible answer. If we look at B, it's blurry as shit. But we see that it intersects positive 1, not negative 1. It's a minus 1. If it were plus 1, that's a possibility, but it's not. It's negative 1. So it can't be B. And if we see C and D have negative 1, so it could be those possible answers. Now, we can also see right here that the slope is positive. So a positive slope always goes up like this. And a negative slope always goes down like this. And as we can see here, this is a positive slope, and C has a negative slope because it's going down. So it's not C. Now we're left with two answers. So how do we figure that out? Well, another thing about slope is that slope equals rise over run, meaning we go up 3 units and to the right 1 unit, because 3 is equal to 3 over 1. So we start at our y-intercept, which is 1, and we need to go up 3 and to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. Well, clearly the line is not there, so this is not correct. It should be D, but let's double check. Start here, 1, 2, 3, 1. It does match, it's on the line. Our answer is D. Okay. A group of 4 friends compares their scores on a personality quiz. They calculate that their average score is 6. Okay, what is average again? Remember, the average of something is the sum of all numbers divided by the number of objects, or the number of people in this case. So the average score is 6, is meaning equals. Jennifer scored 7, Mike scored 3, and Alex scored 9. How much did the remaining friend, Selena, score? Again, anytime you're dealing with how much or how many or whatever, you always assign a variable to it. I'm just going to be consistent here and use X. It's the most common letter used in math, so I'll just stick with it. So, how are we going to set up an equation here? So, we have our average, which is 6, equals, now remember what an average is up here. The sum of all numbers. So the sum of everything we have. Jennifer scored 7, Mike scored 3, Alex scored 9, and Selena scored X. We don't know what X is. We're going to figure that out. So we have 7 plus 3 plus 9 plus X over the number of objects, aka the number of people. We have Jennifer, Mike, Alex, Selena. That's 4 people divided by 4. So how are we going to solve this? Well, for one, let's go ahead and add this mess up here. 7 plus 3 plus 9 is 19. So I have 6 equals 19 plus X over 4. Now to solve for X, remember you're working from the outside to in. So what's in our way right now is that this is a fraction. And if you ever have a fraction and are trying to solve for something, always try to get rid of that fraction. And to get rid of that, we just have to multiply both sides by 4 because that's the opposite of dividing by 4. These 4's cancel out. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 equals 19 plus X because we got rid of that 4 on that side. Last thing to do is to subtract both sides by 19. If you can't do this in your head, that's okay. Use a calculator. X equals 5. That means Selena scored a 5 on this personality quiz. That's your answer. Okay, number 20 is a little bit tricky. So a machine can peel 480 potatoes per hour. So I just want to recall that an hour is 60 minutes. The machine's output can be represented by the equation y equals mx, which, recall, that's the equation of a line, where y is the number of potatoes peeled, x is the time in minutes, So remember that right now. And m is the slope of the line. What is the value of m? So recall how it said 480 potatoes per hour. So how much is that per minute? Well, in order to find that out, you do 480 divided by 60, and that's just 8. So because we're dealing with minutes and not hours, it's going to be 8. That is the value of M. Because that's quite literally saying how many potatoes can you peel per minute? And it's 8 potatoes per minute. That is quite literally what, I can't spell, what slope is. Because slope, again, is rate of change. So the rate is 8 potatoes per minute. That's why it's 8B, not 480. Okay. The list below represents the number of pets owned by 5 people. So we have a person that owns 4 pets, a person that owns 0 pets, and 2 people that own one pet, and 1 person that owns 2 pets. Plot the data below on the line graph. So we're given this mess, but on the computer, it's going to be easier to manage. Select the circles as many times as necessary to show all the data points. So these numbers here represent the number of pets, right? No, I'm sorry. Yes, it does. This represents the number of pets. So let's take a look here. Let's look at the number 4. That 4 indicates that 1 person owns 4 pets. So I'm going to circle this, only 1 circle for the 4, because only 1 person has 4 pets. 0, 1 person has 0 pets. 1 person, 0 pets. Remember, these numbers are not people, they represent the number of pets. Okay, 2 people own 1 pet. So I have to circle 2 here, because 2 people own 1 pet. And 1 person owns 2 pets. And 3 is not circled because there's none of the 5 people own 3 pets. This is your answer. When you put it in the computer, it'll give you straightforward instructions on to just select how many circles. Okay, solve the equation for A. Again, what does it mean to solve for something? It means we're getting it by itself. So our goal is to get A equals something. Well, 6AB equals 2/3. This one's going to be a little bit hard to do on the calculator. So from here, I need to get rid of 6 and B because I just want A. So divide both sides by 6. Hold up a second. Yeah. Because 2/3 divided by 6 is 2/3 times 1/6, which is 2/18, which is a 9th. Okay, so let me rewrite this. A over B equals 1/9. So from here, if you made it this far and are not sure what to do from here, this means we need to have 9 in our answer. So it can't be A or B. And now we need to do, well, clearly 9 is on the bottom, so that's how you know it's C. But let's further go. Divide both sides by B. This is, again, the same thing as A equals 1/9B. And that's it. That's C. Now, you don't have to do every step like this. You could have instead did 6AB equals 2/3 and divided everything by 6B, and you'll immediately get A equals 2/3 times 6B. And this is the same thing as 2/18B, which is 1/9B. The same thing. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. Let me just take a quick drink of water because I'm thirsty. And we're like almost halfway through. We are at 48 minutes, which is not even halfway through the time. So we're averaging a little over 2 minutes per question, which is actually really nice. Okay. Number 3. During an average day, Chris works 8 hours, sleeps for 9 hours, low key, that's me, eats for 2 hours, drives for 1 hour, and spends the rest of his time on leisure. What is the probability that any given time Chris will be engaged in leisure activities? Well, the rest of the time on leisure, we don't know what that is, so we need to figure that out. So during an average day means the whole day, right? So how many hours are in a day? 24. So Chris works for 8 hours, he sleeps for 9 hours, he eats for 2 hours, and he drives for 1 hour. And if you add all that up, let me just do that in my puny little brain, that's 20 hours. So he spends the rest of his time on leisure. That's 4 hours left of his day. So what's the probability? Well, given the total amount of time in the day, and we have 4 hours of leisure time, that's the fraction 4 over 24, which simplifies to 1/6. If you don't know that right off the bat, that's okay. Just do it in your calculator. How do you do that on the calculator again? Type in the number 4. There's a button on your calculator that says N over D. Click that button and then type in 24. And then when you press enter, it'll simplify it for you into 1/6. Again, be sure to master how to use that calculator because it can really go a long way for solving a lot of these problems. So the answer is 1/6. And you can see that A is a bogus answer because we don't have 25 hours in a day. Okay. An artist made a scale drawing of a planned triangular mural using a scale of 2 inches equals a foot. The full-size mural will be 15 feet by 12 feet by 10 feet, which is what's illustrated right here. Find the side lengths of the artist scale drawing and then mark them in the provided boxes. So we're given a lot of these numbers, only 3 of them are going to be our answer. And remember, it's Hij, so the answers go in here. I don't know why they made it like that, but oh well. So that 2 inches equals a foot is very telling here. And in class, we just learned about proportions. So from here, you can use this 2 inches for 1 foot equals, and then you can solve for your inches here. So we'll do it for all 3 of them. I'm a lazy bum, so I'm going to copy and paste it a million times. Okay, we got, 10 feet, 15 feet, 12 feet. So from here, remember that you can cross multiply. So 2 times 10, and then divide it by 1. So x equals, forgot these are feet. X equals 20 inches. So for the 10 that corresponds here, I is going to be 20 inches. Remember, these are whatever side you're looking at corresponds to the exact same side. So if it's 10 feet here, we're not looking over here. We're looking at the exact same spot because this is a proportion. 20 inches. This one right here, 2 times 15 is 30, divided by 1, x equals 30 inches. Now, where's 15? This side corresponds to this side. So h is 30 inches. I don't know if it makes you write the units, but you get the idea. 2 times 12, which is 24, divided by 1, which is just 24. X is 24 inches. Now, that's the last one here. It's J. And look at that. That's these values here. And that's it. You don't have to do this proportion here. You can also recognize if each foot is just 2 inches. You can just do 15 times 2, which is 30. 10 times 2, which is 20. 12 times 2, which is 24. It's the same logic and you get the same answer. But again, it's whatever you understand best. You go with what it is that you feel is most comfortable for you. Okay, solve the equation for x. So, solve the equation for x. So this is what's called a quadratic. And all quadratics, you learn this in Algebra 2 or Algebra 1 in school, or I should say students typically learn that, is ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are some numbers. And in order to solve for an equation, it has to always equal 0. Why? Because these are y-intercepts, but you don't need to know that much. Now, as we can see here, this is not yet equal to 0. What we can do is move everything to one side. To keep things easier, let's just move this 4x over because it's only one thing to deal with versus moving everything here on that side. So minus 4x minus 4x. This is the same thing as x squared minus, so these two are like terms, so we can combine them. Negative 6x plus negative 4 or minus 4 is negative 10x minus 11 equals 0. Now from here, you need to do something called factoring. And factoring is this. So recall, it matches this, right? You need to find two numbers that add to your b value and those same two numbers that multiply to your c value. Now, from here, our b value is negative 10. So I need to find two numbers that add to negative 10 and multiply to negative 11. So how do we find that? Well, notice that if they have to multiply to negative 11, they have to be factors of 11. And the only factors of 11 are 1 and 11, because it's a prime number. Recall, a prime number is a number that's only divisible by itself, in this case 11, and 1. That's the definition of a prime number. So since I only have one factor pair to use, I'm going to put that here. But remember, they need to add, these two factors need to add to negative 10 and multiply to negative 11. And clearly 1 plus 11 is not negative 10, it's 12. So how do I change these numbers so that it equals negative 10? Well, if it equals negative 10, that means the bigger number has to be negative, right? So, because 1 minus 11 is negative 10. And if you don't know that, that's okay. Use your calculator. Now, because it's 1 minus 11, that means this one also has to be minus 11. Now, let's check if we're correct. 1 minus 11 is negative 10. Check. 1 times negative 11 is negative 11. Check. So, that is my... that is what this is going to factor to. So x squared minus 10x minus 11 factors into a product of two binomials where all I need to do is write x plus 1 and x minus 11. The numbers are essentially what we just found. Now, a lot of people run straight to the answer positive 1, negative 11, because, oh, well, it's this. But it's actually, you're not there yet. You need to actually solve for x. And right here, we don't have x equals something. So there's one more step to this. You need to figure out what x is. And in order to do that, you need to recognize that we're multiplying two numbers so that it equals 0. Well, how do I get a product of 0? The only way to get a product of 0 is if one of these or both of them equals 0. So what you need to do is you need to set every expression in their own parentheses equal to 0. So we have x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 11 equals 0. So let's solve for here. X plus 1 equals 0. Well, subtract 1 from both sides because we're getting x by itself. X equals negative 1. Let's compare where we have x as negative 1. Well, it's not C and it's not B, so we're left with two answer choices. X minus 11 equals 0. Add 11 to both sides because, again, we want we want x by itself. X equals 11. Positive 11. That's not this one. The answer is D. Okay, what is the relationship between the lines y equals 3x minus 2 and negative x plus 3y equals 4? Okay, so the answer choices, so remember, in case if you have no idea what to do for a question, try to look at the answer choices. The answer choices most likely indicate some hints to you as to how to go about the problem. They are parallel, they are perpendicular, the same line, blah, blah, blah. And you learn in school that in order for two lines to be parallel, they need to have the same slope. In order for them to be perpendicular, they need to have opposite reciprocals of each other. If they're the same line, then they have the same equation. So in order to see the relationship of these two lines, they need to be in the same form. This one is in something called slope-intercept form, but this one is in something called standard form. Now, we can't really see the relationship right away, so in order to do that, I'm going to convert this to slope-intercept form. It's easier than converting slope-intercept form to standard form. I also just straight up don't know how to do that. That's something not really taught in school. So let's convert this to slope-intercept form. How do you do it? Well, all slope-intercept form equations are y equals mx plus b, which is what this is in. So that means we just need to solve for y. So in order to do that, we have to get y by itself. That means working from the outside in. So I'm going to add 9x to both sides just to get rid of that. Now I'm left with 3y plus 9x plus 4. Oh, 3y equals 9x plus 4. Now you can write 4 plus 9x. It doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to do it in a way that matches exactly this equation. The logic will still be the same though. Last step to do is to divide both sides by 3. So we have y equals 9 divided by, now if it helps not to be so confusing, just think of it as I'm dividing every term by 3. Now I have y equals 9x divided by 3 is just 3x plus 4 over 3 is a yucky number. I'm just going to leave it as that. I don't really care. Now that they're both in the same form, let's go ahead, let's compare the two. Y equals 3x minus 2. Well, notice how the slopes are the same. And if the slopes are the same, that means that the lines are going to be parallel to each other. And if you don't know what parallel means, it means that the points are equal distant from one another and they're never going to intersect. Think of it as like a ladder. Like these things, I don't know what they're called. They're straight, they're not like gonna touch each other. That's what parallel means. So the answer is A, they're parallel because they have the same slope. Okay. Number 27, solve for x. Okay, so again, remember how solving for a variable means getting it by itself or working from the outside inwards? This one has x everywhere. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, anytime you see a number times something in parentheses, that's always your clue to distribute that number, meaning multiply it to everything in the parentheses. So we're taking -2. Yes, you need to have this sign attached to it because that's what the number is. It's a -2. And I have to do -2 times 3x. So Let's do that. I have 10x. I have no space here. 10x. Negative 2 times 3x is minus 6x. Negative 2 times negative 1. Remember, a negative times a negative is positive. And if you don't remember this, just do it in your calculator. Remember, if you can use your calculator for everything, use it. It's very important. It's a very important tool to have for the test. So negative 2 times negative 1 is plus 2, and it equals 5x. We didn't do anything to the 10x or 5x. Now the last thing to do is just combine all the like terms. So the most obvious one that sticks out to me is this, 10x minus 6x. Well, 10 minus 6 is 4x, plus 2 equals 5x. Now, from here, I have x's on both sides, but I want to get it by itself. Well, I can just go ahead and take this 4x and subtract it away to the other side. Minus 4x minus 4x. So I have x equals, because 5 minus 4 is 1, which is our goal. We want 1x. X equals 2. That's the answer. Okay. Number 28. All right, so we have a pie chart of people's favorite seasons. Using the given chart, which shows the favorite seasons of a using the given chart, which shows the favorite seasons of a group of 325 students. How many students liked fall or spring the best? So whenever it says something or something, it always indicates that thing plus the other thing, right? So how many students liked fall or spring? So right off the bat, 12 students liked fall. I'm sorry, not 12. 12% of 325 students liked fall. So 12% plus 28% of those students of 325 students like spring and fall. 12 plus 28, since these are percents, I can add them together. Do this in your calculator if you must. That's 40%. And it's saying how many students liked it. So we're actually taking 40% of 325. You can do it like this. If you're advanced, you can do 0.4 times 325, which is, I need my calculator. I'm a calculator child. Times 325, which is 130 students. Or for my students where we haven't learned it this way, so it's B, right? Or for my students where we haven't learned it this way, 40% can be rewritten as 40 over 100, because that's what a percent is, equals x over the total. And we have the total students as this. How do we solve for x when we have two fractions set equal to each other? You do 40 times 320 divided by 100. So 325 times 40, or 40 times 325 divided by 100. And that is, in your calculator, going to be 130 as well. So it's the same logic, because 40 over 100 is the same thing as 0.4. It's 4/10. Okay. A factory produces bricks of varying sizes. All of the bricks have a length of 8 inches and a width of 4 inches. One company wants to purchase bricks that have a volume, it's a fancy word, of 160 cubic inches. What will be the height of each brick in inches? So what exactly is volume? So volume is the measure of the amount of space in a 3D object. So a brick, imagine yourself what a brick looks like. I'm going to show off my artistic ability here. Here's a brick. Boom, Picasso. And it's telling us that It has a length of 8 inches and a width of 4 inches. Does it matter where the numbers are? Not really. So let me be more. 4, 8, doesn't matter, right? What matters is, how do I find the volume of a rectangular shape, like a rectangular prism? Well, for any rectangular or cubic object, the volume is just length times width times height, or height times width times length, or width times, it's the same thing, multiplying just three numbers. And it's telling us, what is the height of each brick? Well, it's asking us what will be the height of each brick. So height is always vertical. So, I mean, again, it doesn't matter in the situation. But essentially, what will be the height, meaning we'll assign it a variable and we're going to solve for it. So I'm going to let x be height, or h, use whatever variable you want. Now, it gives us the volume that it is 160 cubic inches. So 160 equals 4 times 8 times x. Or x times 8 times 4, 8 times 4, it doesn't matter, right? This is multiplying. Now, from here, we need to solve for x. So 160 equals 4 times 8 is 32 times x. Again, calculadora for this. If you have trouble multiplying, use your calculator. Now, we just need to solve for x here. And the last thing to do is to divide both sides by 32. Because again, it's saying 32 times what number is 160? And we get that by dividing. Use your calculadora. X equals 5 inches. That is the height of each brick, 5 inches. And you can check you're correct if you plug this in for 5. 4 times 8 times 5 is 160. That's how you know you're correct. Okay. Number 30, we're almost done. 16 questions left. And we're only 70 minutes in out of 115 minutes. So we have 45 minutes left, which is really good. A restaurant expects to serve between 180 and 200 tarts on a certain evening. So far, the pastry chef has made 76 tarts. She solves the inequality, this, to determine the number of additional tarts T she needs to make. What is the solution to the inequality? Now again, solution means you're getting T by itself. So we currently have 180 is less than or equal to 76 plus T, which is less than or equal to 200. Now, if you notice all of your answers have T by itself, what do you think happened? Think about it. That 76 is gone. Well, where did it go? It was subtracted away, right? Because it's a positive 76. If I want to get rid of a positive number, I subtract it by the same value. So if I'm subtracting 76 from this side, I need to do it to every single number here, every single number on each respective side, because again, it's not going to be balanced if I don't do it. So right over here. Now, if you don't want to use your calculator, fine, I recommend you do, but use your logic here. 180 minus 76, is that going to be bigger or equal to 100? Is that going to be bigger or smaller than 180? It's definitely going to be smaller, so it's not A, it's not C, and 108 minus 76 is 104. So 104 is less than or equal to T, which is less than or equal to, and obviously from here, if I'm doing 200 minus 76, it's going to be less than 200, which eliminates B. My answer is D. But let's check. 200 minus 76, plug it in your calculator, is 124, which is indeed our answer. Okay. Number 31. Line N passes through the points 0, 0, which is also known as something called the origin. So if you have your funky little graph, the origin is just the starting point, right? I don't know if the GED is going to trick you with this word choice for some question, and instead of saying 0, 0, it'll say origin, but you know now. So the line passes through these points. What is the equation of line n? Well, first of all, in order to figure out what our equation is, we need to have at least the slope. So let's calculate what the slope is. And in order to calculate slope, which is also known as your m in your y equals mx plus b equation, it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, what the heck is that? Well, you just assign your variables to these. So I'm going to let this coordinate represent my x1 comma y1, because that's again how you read a coordinate as x comma y. And I'll let 12 comma 3 be x2 comma y2. All you need to do is just plug these numbers in. So my y2 is 3 minus y1, 0. And my x2 is 12 minus my x1, which is 0. Okay, so 3 minus 0 is just 3. 12 minus 0 is just 12. And to simplify this, remember, if you don't remember how to simplify things on your calculator, write the numerator, the top number, the button n over d on your calculator, and then the denominator, the number on the bottom, and press equals, and it'll simplify it for you. It's a fourth. So this eliminates two answer choices because my m is 1/4. It's not C and it's not D. So now I'm stumped between two different answers. Well, remember how your B is your y-intercept? What is a y-intercept? Again, the y-intercept is some point on the y-axis. And all y-intercepts are written as 0, comma b, some number. Well, it actually already gives us our y-intercept. It's in the equation, it's in the question. Our y-intercept is just 0. So it's going to be y equals 1/4 x plus 0, which is essentially, adding 0 to anything is just y equals 1/4 x, which is, hey. All right. Number 32. Take a little sip of water. Okay. So, find g of x for the provided x values and put the answers in the appropriate boxes. Okay, so it's giving us this function right here. G of x equals x over 2 plus 1. So it's asking us to find g of a half, g of 4, g of 10. So if you're struggling with composition functions, this is the easiest way I can explain it. Whatever your x, whatever this g of or f of x or whatever is essentially what you plug into your function. So if I decided to do g of a heart, this is the same thing as, well, the x is right there. This is the same thing as heart over 2 plus 1. Or if I plug in g of star, this is the same thing as star over 2 plus 1. Star and heart are just some numbers, right? That's all that it is. All you need to do is just take whatever number it gives you and plug it into wherever the x is. And that's what we're going to do here. So g of a half is equal to g of 1/2 is equal to, substitute it for x, 1/2 over 2 plus 1. Now do it in your calculator. 1/2 divided by 2 is, hang on, I'm trying to do this in my head. Oh, it's a fourth. So this is equal to 1/4 plus 1. Well, a fourth plus 1 is 5 over 4. Do it in your calculator if you have to. 5/4. Cool. That's for A. Let's find B. G of 4. G of 4 is equal to, again, we're plugging in our x for 4, 4 over 2 plus 1. Well, 4 over 2 is 4 divided by 2, which is 2 plus 1, which is 3. I don't know why all the answers are next to each other. It's kind of been like that. It won't be like that for the test, though. G of 10. G of 10 is equal to, again, we're using this function, 10 over 2, because we're replacing x with 10, plus 1. So 10 over 2 is 5 plus 1, which is 6. And there you go. That's it. Okay, on Saturday, a flower shop sold 120 flowers, 80 of which were roses. The rest were tulips. What was the ratio of roses to tulips sold on Saturday? Okay, remember, ratio of roses to tulips. Roses, semicolon, tulips. Okay, well, how many roses were there? Says it, 80. How many tulips? The rest were tulips. Well, how do I find that? I do 120 minus 80, which if you don't know how to do that, calculadora, that's 40 tulips. So it's 80 to 40, which you can reduce in your calculator to 2 to 1. So it's C. So the reason it's not 1 to 2 is because this is saying tulips, 2 roses, but we don't want that. We want roses to tulips. It's very specific. 1/2 and 2 over 1 are not the same thing. Okay. So that's not what we want. Which of the following correctly represents the expression 5 less than 2 times a number? So whenever you're reading stuff like this, you can translate this into algebra. 5 less than. Think of what 5 less than means. If Sally has 10 apples and I have 4 less apples than her, how many do I have? I have 6 because 10 minus 4. That means I did subtraction. So minus 5. And right off the bat, I already see my answer, but let's just keep going. Than 2 times a number. Do we know what this number is? No. I'm going to assign it a variable. 2 times a number is 2 times x, which is 2x. All right, well, clearly 2x minus 5. That's my answer. It matches this. And again, you can think about eliminating bogus answers. So if it's minus 5, well, none of these are minus 5. Okay. Which of the following represents the solution to the inequality? So again, anytime you see solution, that always means variable is by itself. And over here, it's 2 times x is less than 6. So you can still treat this as an equation. Divide both sides by 2 because I just want x. X is less than 3. Now, which number of these should it be? Well, there's another thing about inequalities you should know. If I'm dealing with strict inequalities like this versus non-strict inequalities like this, they have a bar underneath them. Because notice how we have open and closed circles. You'll know when to use open and closed circles if for strict inequalities, they have to be open circles. They're open circles, and I don't know if this will be on the maybe a question on the GED, but if you're dealing with lines, it's also a dotted line. It's not very nicely dotted, but oh well. And with, oh my God. And with non-strict inequalities, it's a closed circle and a solid line. So clearly this is a strict inequality, so we're not dealing with a closed circle, we're dealing with an open circle. So that automatically eliminates C and D. So how do we figure out which one we're using? Well, think about what it's actually saying. X is less than 3, meaning X represents all numbers. Hang on, I forgot I'm lazy. All numbers smaller than 3. Okay, so let's take a look at these two. This arrow is pointing this way, meaning it's pointing towards all the numbers that are smaller than 3. 2, 1, 0, -1, blah, 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 are all smaller than 3. That matches the inequality. It's A. So why is it not B? Oh, that's so weird. This thing says option C, option B. They're not, whatever. So why is it not this one? Well, because this is saying the arrow is going toward all the numbers bigger than 3. But we don't want that. It's clearly asking for numbers that are smaller than 3. Okay, so it's A. Number 36. At the beginning of 2015, Nima was 143 centimeters tall. After 1 year, she had grown 2% taller. The next year, she grew another 1% taller. To the nearest hundredth, what was Nima's height at the beginning of 2017? Right off the bat, look at your answer choices. A says 4.29 centimeters. No human is that small. That is clearly not a right answer, so you can eliminate it right now. So at the start of the year, she was 143 centimeters tall. And after 1 year, she grew 2% taller. 2% of what? Of 143. But then the next year, she grew another 1% taller. So to the nearest hundredth, what was her height? Well, the easiest way to do this is to think about, so she was already 143 centimeters tall, and she grew 1% plus 2%, a total of 3% taller. So all we can do is multiply this by, not by 3%, because that will give us only like 3% of the number 143. We have to multiply it by 1.03. We have to multiply it by 103%, because we're taking 100% of her height already, plus the additional growth of 3%. So type this in your calculator, and where's my calculator? Now, if you don't understand this concept yet, that's okay. That is 147.29 centimeters, because I'll show you why you can't just do 143 times 0.03. Because if you do that, well, I mean, you can do that. You just have to add it to the height. Times 0.03, 4.29. But again, you have to add this to the height. Then you get 47.29. It's a lot of steps, but it's the same logic if you're more comfortable with that. But the answer is going to be D. Okay. A circle has a diameter of 12, just 12. It doesn't specify. Oh, well. What is its area? So we have a circle. Diameter is essentially double the radius. Radius is just from going to the center of the circle to the end. What is its area? So the area of a circle is pi r squared, r being the radius. But a lot of people plug in 12, but 12 is not the radius, it's the diameter. How do we find the radius? To find the radius, again, radius is just half the diameter. So 12 divided by 2, or 12 times a half, that's 6. Our radius is 6. So oh my goodness. So we plug this in. Pi times 6 squared is 36 pi. Don't bother typing in pi in the calculator, because look, your answers just have the pi in it. The answer is B. Okay. Casey has a $10,000 interest-free student loan. Hold on a second. My lips are chapped. He plans to pay $50 every week, every week until the loan is paid off. Which of the following expressions represents the amount of the loan remaining after W weeks? So if he's paying it each week, that means 1 week is $50. The next week he pays another 50, and next week another 50, blah, blah, blah. I keep adding 50. And remember how I said in the beginning that repeated addition is multiplication. So we're going to have 50 times W. Now, right off the bat, two answer choices don't make any sense to me. It's A and C. Why? Because it says 10,000 times W. This is wrong because this is wrong because it's essentially saying, oh, he's paying $10,000 per week. This dude is not Jeff Bezos, okay? That's not what the question is saying. It's saying he pays $50 a week. He has a 10,000 interest-free student loan. That means he pays it once. He's not multiplying it by the number of weeks. That's why A and C don't make any sense. Now, if he's paying it off, that means he starts off with $10,000 in debt, and he needs to pay off this money in order to get from 10,000 to 0. Now, obviously, in order to do that, he needs to subtract the amount of money that he's paying. So the answer is B. It's not D because he's adding to his debt, and that's not what he's doing. He's trying to pay off his debt. So he's subtracting the money from how much he owes so that he can eventually get to 0 debt. It's B. Okay. Plot points A, B, C, and D on the graph. I don't know how you're going to be able to do this on the GED, like how it's going to be formatted. But essentially, let's look at point A. Remember, we always read coordinates as x, comma, y. X-axis, y-axis. So -6, comma 1. So we're looking at the x-axis first. So we go left 6 and then up 1. So point A is right there, -6, comma 1. All right, 0, comma 5. So we're at 0 and then up 5. C, 3, comma -3. Go to the right 3, down 3. My point is right there. Sorry, it's B, C. Last one, -1, comma -4. -1 here, down 4. I'm right there. That's it. Okay. All right. So we're given line A is y equals 1/2 x. And then line B shown on the graph below. Use the information to complete the following sentences. The slope of line A is either equal to, greater than, or less than the slope of line B. Well, let's just write an equation for this line. So remember, y equals mx plus b, where m is our slop, and b is our y-intercept. Right off the bat, y equals, we know our y-intercept is just wherever the line is intersecting here. It's at 2, positive 2. So we have something times x plus 2. Now to figure out the slope, we have to go from here, from our starting point, the y-intercept, to another point that we can clearly read. Right there. That's 1, comma 0. Now, how did I get there? I had to go down 2 to the right 1. So this is a negative slope because it's going down. I have negative. I went down 2 and to the right 1, meaning it's 2 over 1 or just 2. Y equals -2 plus 2. So my slope is -2. So the slope of line A is clearly greater than the slope of line B because 1/2 is bigger than -2. Greater than. Okay. The y-intercept of line A is blank the y-intercept of line B. Well, since there's no plus anything or minus anything here, that means that the y-intercept is 0. So the intercept of line A is 0 and the intercept of line B is 2. So that means the intercept of line A is less than the intercept of line B because 0 is less than 2. Okay. On a vacation, Michael has packed 6 shirts, 3 pairs of shorts, and 2 pairs of shoes. How many different outfit combinations consisting of 1 shirt, 1 pair of shorts, and 1 pair of shoes can Michael make? So this is known as the fundamental property of multiplicative outcomes, I think. Now, the way to do this for any type of question like this is to just multiply 6 times 3 times 2, which is, do it in your calculator, 36. That's the answer. But to give a brief explanation as why you multiply it, let me do a very tiny example, because if I were to do it with this example with 36, it's going to be quite big. So let me do like an ice cream example. I have, let's see, I have 2 flavors. So I'll represent them as circles, and 2 toppings. I'll represent them as triangles. No, I'm sorry, 3 toppings. 2 flavors, 3 toppings. So, how many combinations can I make with 1 flavor and 1 topping? Let's see. I can have, you know what, let's make this vanilla, let's make this chocolate, let's make this sprinkles, spin, I don't know, cherries, Oreo, whatever. I can have 1 combination of vanilla with sprinkles. That's 1. I can have 1 combination with vanilla and cherries. That's another 1. And I can have another combination of vanilla and Oreo. So that's already 3. Now if instead I wanted chocolate, I can have chocolate and sprinkles. No, I don't like this color. I can have chocolate and sprinkles. That's 1. I can have chocolate and cherries. It's another 1. And I can have chocolate and Oreo, which is my personal favorite. That's a total of 3. Now, I understand this is a small example, so it's not very visible yet. But if I do a bigger example, it's going to be chaos, which actually I can do. But for the sake of time, I won't do it right now. So that's 3 plus 3, or 3 times 3, which isn't, no, sorry, 3 times 2, because I have 3 toppings and 2 flavors, which is equal to 6. You know what? We have time. I want to do another example. We're doing 3 flavors. So we're gonna have, I don't know, strawberry. So I can have strawberry with sprinkles. That's 1. Strawberry with cherries. That's another 1. Strawberry with Oreo. You see how crazy this is getting? So imagine if we had 36 options. It'd be a nightmare to draw. That's also 3. I have 3 flavors and 3 toppings, which is 9. So that would be the answer for this combination. And you know what? We still have a lot of time. So let me do another flavor. Oh my God, I don't know why I'm thinking of so many things. Let's see. So we have 4 flavors. I don't know what other flavors of ice cream are there. Let's do some crappy one, cotton candy. No, come at me. So I can have cotton candy with oh, hold on. Bear with me here. I can have cotton candy with sprinkles, that's 1. Cotton candy with cherries, that's another 1. Cotton candy with Oreo, that's disgusting. That's another 1, but that's 3. So I have 4 flavors times 3 toppings. 4 times 3, that's 12 combinations. That's already getting a lot bigger. It's already getting more chaotic. So you can only imagine what 36 is going to look like. It's going to look huge. But essentially, this is the logic behind why you multiply everything. Thought I'd show a quick example. Um, let's keep going. We're almost done. And we're at an hour and 38 minutes, which is 98, almost 100 minutes. So we have 17 minutes left. So we're really using our time wisely here. Okay, select the correct options to complete the following sentences. Point A is the blank. Okay, so let's look at point A. It's right over here. Now, we're given a bunch of choices. Is it the minimum? It is actually the minimum, because the way we read graphs is this is the lowest all the way to the highest. And clearly, that's the starting point. So it's actually the minimum. Minimum. It's not the midpoint. Midpoint is if I have a line segment. Midpoint is like halfway in between. That's not a mid. So this is not a midpoint. It's not a y-intercept because the y-intercept has to intersect the y-axis, and that's intersecting the x-axis. Okay, point B is the y-intercept because it's intersecting the y-intercept. We don't, it's not asking for slope, it's not asking for range, and we don't have a maximum because the arrows are going on forever. That's what these little arrowheads mean. It means that this graph is going way into infinity. And infinity is essentially, it looks like this, it's never ending. Looks like a sideways 8. Okay. Number 43. So the table shows the number of miles driven on a full tank of gas and the tank capacity for 4 different cars. Which car drove the greatest number of miles per gallon? Okay, so in order to get this, we just need to figure out how many miles per gallon. So for every gallon, how many miles? And to do that, you just do, well, for this one, 12 gallons, you can drive 287 miles. That's 287 divided by 12. Again, calculadora is your best friend. 23.9 miles per gallon. That's for lightning. For fireball, 312 divided by 16, which is 19.5 miles per gallon. Clearly, that's not very good. So the lightning is doing a lot better. So fireball is not an answer. All right, 324 divided by 14 is 23.14 miles per gallon. They're almost close together, but 23.9 is bigger than 23.1. So Journey is not the best so far. Last but not least, Metra, 223 divided by 12 is 18.6 miles per gallon. All right, that's the worst. So it's not Metra. So it's Lightning. Lightning has the best miles per gallon because you can go a lot more miles on a gallon. Okay, number 44, factor. All right, so this one's very similar to that one problem we did. I forgot what number it is with the 10 and the 11. Yeah, it's the same thing as 25, but we don't need to solve for anything. So again, this is a trinomial. It's a quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So again, we're finding two numbers that add to my b value, and those same exact numbers multiply to my c value. So from here, my b value is again 4, and my c value is negative 32. Remember, the sign on the left has to belong to the number, negative 32. So again, how do you find what two numbers add to 4 and multiply to negative 32? If they multiplied in 32, that means they have to be factors of 32. So let's list all the factors of 32, 1 and 32, 2 and 16. Again, use your calculator if you must. 4 and 8, and that's it for now. So which factor pair, again, it has to be a factor pair, so it can't be like, oh, 1 and 4. They have to be, or 1 and 16. They have to be exactly next to each other. Will 1 and 32 help me add to 4? Absolutely not. Will 2 and 16 help me add to 4? Absolutely not. 4 and 8 can. But is it just positive 4 and positive 8? No, because 4 plus 8 is 12, not 4. So again, we need to make one of these negative. Well, since it's a positive 4, that means the bigger number is positive. So it has to be negative 4. Now let's check. Negative 4 plus 8, or 8 minus 4, that is 4. Check. Negative 4 times positive 8 is negative 32. That's correct. So this is equal to, and all you need to do is just put in x minus 4 and x plus 8, and that matches choice B. So it's very different from the solving one. From the solving one, the answers are going to be the opposite of whatever these are, but we're not solving for anything. It's just asking us to factor. 2 questions left. All right. A test has a total of 30 questions, some worth 2 points, and others worth 3 points. Okay. Do we know how many? No. But let's read the rest of the question. The total number of points on the test is 81. How many 3-point questions are on the test? So for this question, there's probably other ways to solve it, but I'm going to solve it using system of equations because that's how I know how to do it now. If you have another method, go with it. Again, everything I'm showing you on this test is not a you must do it this way. If you have your own way of doing it or you learned it a certain way, you are by all means welcome to use that, right? So for this one, some worth 2 points and others worth 3 points. Well, we don't know what these are. So I'm going to let the questions that are worth 2 points be X and others that are worth 3 points be Y. I'm so creative with my variables. So a test has a total of 30 questions. So I have however many X amount of questions worth 2 points. The rest are questions worth 3 points. So however many that is, X plus Y equals 30. That's how many questions there are. And at the same time, the total number of points on the test is 81. So I have 2 equations. So obviously, some questions are worth 2 points. So if I were to get 1 question right, I'd get 2 points. If I were to get 2 questions right, I get 4 points because 2 times 2. If I were to get 4 questions right, that's 4 times 2, that's 8. So that automatically means it's 2 times X because X represents however many questions there are. We don't know how many there are. Plus, same logic here, 3 times Y. If I get 1 question right, I get 3 points. If I get 4 questions right, I get 12 points because 3 times 4. So we actually need to solve this. And the way I learned in school and most people did is called the elimination method or the substitution method. Since we have a lot of time, I will show both. I'm just seeing how much time we have. We have enough time. So I'll show substitution first. Substitution means I'm gonna change it so that one of the variables is equal to another. So let me choose, let's choose, let's see. Yeah, it'd be best to choose X because we're solving for 3-point questions, we're solving for Y. So X equals 30 minus Y. Well, since I already have X, that means I can plug it in here. 2 times 30 minus Y plus 3Y equals 81. Again, use your calculator if you must. We're distributing this 2. 60 minus 2 times Y is 2Y plus 3Y equals 81. 60 minus, well, not minus, negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. So 60 plus Y equals 81. Subtract 60 from both sides. I get Y equals 21 questions. That's your answer. Okay, last question. Okay, so we're subtracting this. So essentially all you're doing is just combining like terms. So let's take a look. We have this quantity subtracted from this quantity. I have 3x squared and I need to subtract it from whatever has the same variable. So I have 3x squared minus 8x squared. If you don't know how to do this, in your calculator, 3 minus 8 is negative 5x squared. All right, that eliminates two answer choices. So I'm halfway there. Next, I have negative 4x minus x. Remember, that minus is key here. So negative 4x minus x equals, so this is going to be, again, minus 5x, because negative 4 minus 1. That doesn't eliminate any choices, so that didn't help, but oh well. 1/2 minus 2. 1/2 minus a negative 2. If you have a minus and a plus, if you have a minus and a negative, this turns into plus. So we have 1/2 plus 2, which is, oh my God, I can't do anything. Let's see, 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5, which is equal to 5 halves. Answer is C. And that is pretty much it. Oh, I was going to show the other method for this one. So this I just did was substitution. Substitution. I can show you elimination method. You can do whichever one you want. Elimination. A lot of people find elimination easier, but a lot of people also find substitution easier. It does not matter at all. So for elimination, x plus y equals 30 over, not over, 2x plus 3y equals 81. In the name, elimination means to eliminate a variable. In this case, I want to solve for y, so I don't want to eliminate it. I want to eliminate the x's. So in order to do that, I want to add these. So where these two, when I add them, equals 0. Well, 1 plus 2 is not 0, it's 3. So I need to change this equation. And in order to do that, I just multiply it by negative 2. Why? Because if I do that, so distribute negative 2 everywhere, negative 2x minus 2y equals negative 60. And again, this equation I didn't do anything with. That's positive x plus 3y equals 81. Now, if I add all these together, well, negative 2x plus 2x is 0, so that's eliminated, aka the name elimination. Negative 2y plus 3y is y equals negative 60 plus 81, or 81 minus 60 is 21. So you get the same answer with less work, but it's whatever you prefer. Anyways, that's it. And I'm going to stop the timer. That is that is an hour and 51 minutes, which is, my little brain, which is 110 minutes. Now, almost 112 minutes. And remember that the test, it gives you 115 minutes. So we practically ended with enough time to maybe quickly check our answers and all that. I highly recommend you don't submit the test right away. You submit it, like when you have like 2 minutes left. Always, always, always go back and check your work, because it will be worth it in the end. It might be tiring, because I understand you might be tired after this entire test, but it's worth it in the end to just check all your work. And again, to receive a passing score, you need to get like, I think 15 to 16 questions wrong. But again, this is the answer key, so you can revisit this video anytime you want and go at your own pace with these questions. But that is it for this video, and you're welcome to email me if you have any questions. And I'm going to end this video.